Hi, so by way of a preview, my open wound is a concussion. But as people have been sharing, it's reminded me that the concussion actually resulted from a previous open wound, where when people will talk about the little man complex, when I was growing up, I was always the shortest kid in my class. You know, my pediatrician would talk to me about how I was just a percentile away from dwarfism. And it kind of instilled in me this desire to be this tough girl. Even though I could never make it in those sports, I thought, I'm just going to go for it. So about 10 years ago, when I decided to join the St. Mary's College rugby team. Normally, these decisions happen when I think as a litmus test, does this scare the crap out of me? And if it does, I inherently feel committed to it. So one thing I thought was, in my favor was St. Mary's College really predominantly consisted of Southern Californian girls who were, blonde, wore skirts and flip-flops to class, and were normally about 10 pounds underweight. So I thought, if they're on the rugby team, this won't be too difficult. So I show up to practice the first day, and somehow the 15 beefiest women in the school had found one another. And there were maybe, 3 other girls who were slightly less muscular, but feisty looking nonetheless. And I wondered if maybe I looked like an exercise science student who was getting spring quarter credit by, just being the rugby medic. First day of practice, I should have run, but I didn't. And the coach became quite worried about me. I noticed that I never seemed to have an assignment. Everybody else seemed to be in a position, and I was always kind of floating about. So my favorite time was when he was giving people positions, and he said, he had kind of an accent I could never distinguish. It might have been French. He said, you, right half, you, scrum half, you, pointing to me, be careful. And so I kind of got tired of not having an assignment. And I wasn't as familiar with the rules because I just wasn't playing as much. So one day I decided I am going to tackle the most muscular girl on the field. And I run up to her, and I'm thinking I'm a decent runner at least. So at least maybe physics will be in my favor the faster I run. So I tried to tackle her. I ricocheted off of her so hard, I flew and my head hit the ground. It felt like a bell ringing after a door was slammed on it. And I get up and I hear, way to take it, which was really my only perceived success that season. So, following that, student health had a talk with me, and they said, this isn't going to work out for you, and you need to quit. And it was perfect timing, because in my classes, I was starting to try to make a point during class, and midway through the sentence, I'd forget what it was. So what they don't tell you about concussions is that the more that you have, the easier it is to get another one. And I noticed over time that it really didn't take much. It could be I could trip, and all of a sudden I had a concussion if I fell on the ground. One time I was in a CrossFit course, brought a bar down on my head, concussion. Hit my head on a windowsill, concussion. And the wonderful thing about the concussions is they always coincided with important milestones. So when I had to write my last grad school paper, concussion the night before. I had an important interview for a promotion at my job, concussion 2 days before. But the other piece about the concussions is that over time, with the concussions and some other conditions, my memory isn't what it used to be. And it became strange to be familiar with concepts that I don't have access to anymore. And I realized that in that, it's a little harder to relate to the world when you can't remember things, which is interesting because what brought me into rugby was trying to be part of things, trying to be as tough as everybody else. So I made an interesting discovery that I could appreciate knowledge for a different reason, for being able to relate to the world instead of trying to sound smart or trying to win an argument. And it's been one of the best things actually that's ever happened to me. And there's an excitement when I look something up that maybe I knew before but am not quite familiar with, and I learn all over again what it is. So I know that given the concussions, I'll probably have another one. I'll probably, deplete memory-wise again, but I love knowing that no matter what, knowledge is always out there.